They have that light screen on the Rotom. So what is going to prevail here? The sun from Arsal Puri, or is it going to be the sand from Wolfe Glick? One way to find out. Jumping into game number 1, Wolfe is going to be leading with the Steelix and Tyranitar. We're going to see the Garchomp and Venusaur for Arsal.
Right off the bat, both of Wolfe's possible Mega Evolution Pokemon showing their faces. Tyranitar setting up that sand immediately means that this Venusaur is going to lose its Focus Sash unless it swaps out on this turn. The Steelix and the Tyranitar can both Mega Evolve, but you can only select one per battle. The fact that Steelix has come indicates that Wolfe is probably going for that Mega Steelix mode in this first game.
Steelix would be a great call here. Something that would be not taking too much damage from something on the Venusaur side. Has a general good matchup into something like the Sludge Bomb. And the second attack that this Venusaur has is Earth Power. So we'll see this Tyranitar make a switch out for now as the Talonflame comes in to take its place. Something else that doesn't necessarily want to end up taking any chip damage here from the sand at the end of this turn, unless it breaks its Gale Wings. But that's not going to matter when the Garchomp's going to do that for it. Sleep Powder from the Venusaur comes out into the Steelix, but that protects keeping it safe for now.
And a huge turn from Arsal right off the bat. That's a lot of damage into Talonflame, and this Choice Scarf Garchomp will be able to outspeed and KO it because this Talonflame's Gale Wings is no longer active. Venusaur does lose its Focus Sash to that sand, but you are threatening a Sleep Powder into this Steelix, and if Steelix wants to swap out into something that can absorb that Sleep Powder like the Sinistra, I don't think that Hospitality would even be enough to save the Talonflame.
Talonflame gets out of dodge. Sinistra comes in to take its place, and there's not really anything to help to be hospitable to. Steelix is at full HP, but it's here to Mega Evolve. And staring down at the competition, Garchomp and Venusaur, they're looking onward as the Garchomp lets out another Dragon Claw, taking that Sinistra down to about 2/3 of its HP. And the Sleep Powder hits. The Venusaur is accurate, and Steelix has got to take a nap on the job.
Still really keeping up that offensive pressure is Arsal. Another Dragon Claw into that Sinistra does almost half when you count that sand damage. A combination of Dragon Claw and Sludge Bomb may be able to finish it off. Steelix also put to sleep by this Venusaur. Garchomp not threatening at all with that Dragon Claw, but Venusaur is also packing Earth Power, a super effective special attack.
That would be one way to get through this giant defense stat on the Steelix. Another way that you can help to keep it in check is going to be with this Incineroar switching in. If the Steelix does wake up, it is going to be doing less damage since it took that Intimidate drop, but it looks like only a second Earth Power would be enough to knock it out. Steelix wakes up though, and it's going to come in with a Heavy Slam under the Venusaur, just barely missing out on the KO. Can the sand damage pick up and finish up the job? Sinistra just sets up the Trick Room.
Twisted Dimensions mean that Steelix will be attacking first. The Sinistra, the Incineroar takes sand damage. Venusaur barely hangs on, but only one more turn will finish it off. And especially since Trick Room just went up as well, a Matcha Gotcha or an attack from the Steelix could take it out. Wolfe gets that crucial first turn wake with the Steelix to get a huge Heavy Slam off into the Venusaur. Incineroar coming in means that Venusaur didn't get knocked out thanks to that Intimidate, but I wonder if you would rather it get knocked out here so you don't have the sitting duck Venusaur on the field.
Charizard's actually going to come in and take the Venusaur's place, but you cannot take away the sand just yet. You're gonna have to wait for this Charizard to Mega Evolve on the next turn as the Incineroar is able to fake out the Steelix to prevent it from attacking on this first one. So now, with the Matcha Gotcha, great, you get a little bit of damage down, but the biggest thing here is that this Charizard's going to want to Mega Evolve and take away that Sand Force from the Steelix.
If it Mega Evolves, it will set up the stun and threaten some very powerful Fire-type attacks, but Arsal has to be very careful about when he chooses to Mega Evolve, because if he does, Tyranitar can immediately switch back in, set up the sand once again, and the combination of that sand going up and the Wide Guard from the Steelix means that there is no available Fire-type damage if the sand is up.
Yeah, you would look at something like the Weather Ball, but of course if the sand is active, that becomes a rock type attack. That's not going to be doing too much damage to either Pokemon standing in front of that Charizard.
That's tough too. The Charizard now not really threatened heavily by any type of attacks. The Sinistra with Matcha Gotcha, we saw it do barely anything. And the Steelix's Heavy Slam, still a decent threat, but at -1. And with that resistance on the Fire type, Charizard can possibly stick around this turn without going for that Mega Evolution and try to fire off a Heat Wave.
You see the Tyranitar switch in for the Sinistra, and there's only one turn of sand left. Is that going to get overwritten as we do end up seeing the Charizard stay on the field as another switch comes through? Charizard's actually not even going to Mega Evolve here. Great patience from Arsal to just let a Heat Wave through Tyranitar takes that much better than the Sinistcha that would have been on the other side, as the sand is now expired.
Really smart option to not Mega Evolve the Charizard there. I think by not going for that Mega Evolution, you're keeping one of your resources in your pocket. You can now threaten the Sun to go up here, and Arsal or Wolfe would have to swap out the Tyranitar, bring it back in, but in doing so, you probably lose your Talonflame or your Sinistcha to an attack from this Charizard. Are you willing to make that trade immediately? Sand ending as well means that there's no more chip damage, there's no more special defense boost on this Tyranitar, and of course there's no more Weather Ball changing into a Rock type. I think if Charizard's going to attack on this turn, it probably turns into the Sun.
I think so. That would be a really tough one for this Steelix to take, knowing that it already took over half from that Earth Power from the Venusaur earlier. Still 2 turns of Trick Room remaining, though, for Wolfe to take advantage of, as the Incineroar swaps in for the Charizard. Wants to get a nice Intimidate drop onto both of these Pokemon, and Steelix lets out the Heavy Slam. Not going to be too much for this Garchomp to handle, though, as the Tyranitar is hoping to follow that up with a Rock Slide, connecting into both Pokemon. The Garchomp has yet to move. The Incineroar takes a lot as it switches in.
Without the Sand, that Heavy Slam doesn't get the boost from Sand Force. Incineroar, after eating its Citrus Berry, will be relatively healthy, but Garchomp flinches from the Rock Slide, probably trying to get off a huge Stomping Tantrum on this turn to potentially knock out that Steelix, take the Pokemon advantage, but Rock Slide prevents that from happening, and now Wolfe is facing down this Garchomp and Incineroar with all of his Pokemon remaining.
One more turn of Trick Room left, and then we will see if it can get set up again. Incineroar hitting the field means that there's a fresh Fake Out available for either the Steelix or the Tyranitar, and maybe another chance for this Garchomp to finish the job.
Stomping Tantrum would be great into either Steelix or Tyranitar, but quite bad into either the Talonflame or the Sinistcha. So Arsal had a window on that last turn to get off a crucial attack here, but it might be closing.
Steelix gets faked out, though, knows that this is going to be a tough Pokemon to get through, especially with that physical defense, as Tyranitar goes for the knockoff. Barely misses the KO here, but you are actually getting rid of a pretty critical piece. The Choice Scarf removed from the Garchomp, letting it pick something else. It had locked into Dragon Claw on the turn before, and now you've gotten rid of that extra speed advantage the Garchomp will have outside of Trick Room.
The knockoff means that Garchomp no longer has that Choice Scarf, no longer will outspeed that Talonflame. You don't have to worry about your Gale Wings being broken by taking some damage. You will be able to outspeed Garchomp, either finish it off with that dual Brave Bird, maybe go for something like that Swords Dance too, but crucially, again, the Garchomp is no longer going to attack before Talonflame. You also got some really good damage off with that knockoff. Garchomp can be a little bit difficult for Tyranitar and Steelix to deal with, but now in range for attack from any of Wolfe's Pokemon.
It's going to be the Sinistcha to come back in, because if there's anything that the Steelix can stand tall to, it's likely the Garchomp and the Incineroar. But can they actually withstand the full test? As wow, an interesting order of events here. It's actually going to be the Hospitality to heal up the Steelix before it switches out, and the Talonflame comes in to take its place. Sinistcha takes another Dragon Claw, letting itself eat its Citrus Berry after the damage that it's taken, and the Parting Shot into the Talonflame will drop its attack.
Smart order of swaps by Wolfe. I think you really wanted that Hospitality healing on the Steelix there to make sure it is healthy for later on in this battle. But what Arsal's doing very well is using these Dragon Claws, guaranteeing that you're getting good damage out. If you're going for Stomping Tantrum on this turn, for example, you're either hitting a Grass type or a Flying type. But now the Sinistcha can't really take too many more attacks. These Dragon Claws are adding up from this Garchomp. Wolfe does have the speed advantage with the Talonflame, but what are you going to do with it?
You have the option to go for Brave Bird or Flare Blitz. Those are your 2 attacks. You've got Sharpig on the Talonflame, so you'll get an extra boost if you do decide to go for a Brave Bird. But if you hit into the Garchomp, that's Rough Skin Recoil that will be happening on top of the recoil you will take from using either of those moves. It's going to be Incineroar to come back in. It was a -1 attack stat onto that Talonflame. Make that -2 as the Intimidate will help that out too. And Sinistcha protects itself, knowing that this Charizard is going to be threatening something here. Talonflame does unleash a Brave Bird, and that's going to go right into the Incineroar, but that's not going to hurt as much as you wish it might have because of that -2.
Arsal also refusing to Mega Evolve this Charizard, continues to be very smart about conserving that resource. The Heat Wave coming through because of all those Dragon Claws into the Sinistcha would have been knocked out even without the Sun and the stats from Mega Evolving. Now Tyranitar comes in, Sand will get set up, and then Arsal can go for that Mega Evolution. If Steelix comes in, you have to swap in that Tyranitar if you want to prevent any kind of Sand. But if you swap in Tyranitar on this non-Mega Charizard and then it Mega Evolves, the Sun goes up. refusing to Mega Evolve this Charizard is really, really smart from Arsal here.
It's proving to us that it doesn't need to hold a Focus Sash or a Life Orb. Charizard in its base form is doing plenty. But you're right, the timing of this has been very critical to let Mega Evolution go on this Charizard. You get a nice boost to your special attack output as well, but with this Tyranitar hitting the field, I think this might be the door that Arsal needed to be opened.
The Tyranitar is also so weak. A Solar Beam should be able to knock it out. Maybe even a combination of Heat Wave and Flare Blitz from this Incineroar. If the Tyranitar is faster than Incineroar, though, you have the chance to go for that knockoff. We've seen it Dragon Dance. It's probably a very speedy Tyranitar. So you can try to go for that Rock Slide, immediately take out that Incineroar, but if you do, you leave yourself vulnerable to this Charizard. Arsal now has the option to pull the trigger on that Mega Evolution, set up the Sun with Drought, activate either Solar Beam or Weather Ball.
There's also an option here for a Rage Powder from the Sinistcha. Is that something that might be able to protect this Tyranitar? If you are thinking that something like a Solar Beam might go that way. Sinistcha doesn't want to find out. It's going to switch out for Steelix now, come in and take its place. So then is this risky? Charizard is Mega Evolving. It's going to set the Sun. It's got Heat Wave at its disposal.
If Heat Wave comes through and knocks out the Steelix, the Sun will be up for the remainder of the game.
Let's find out what happens with this Charizard. It's got a couple of different options here, but we know one thing's for sure. Tyranitar is not going down on this turn. Charizard unleashes the Weather Ball, which is going to catch the Steelix on the switch in and knock it out.
I think Arsal just wins this game. Sinistcha cannot redirect attacks from Venusaur, and Charizard has a very clean Weather Ball into the Sinistcha for the remainder of this battle. A Earth Power from this Venusaur without that Sand special defense boost might be enough to just knock out this Tyranitar and get game one for Arsal.
I think you're right. The patience has been key here, as this Charizard is going to keep the weather sunny all day for the rest of this game number one.
No need to worry about Heat Wave here. A Weather Ball into Sinistcha will finish it off. The question is, does Earth Power KO Tyranitar without the special defense boost from the Sand, without the Mega Evolution special defense buff? I think it might be.
There also might just be, I was going to say, I don't know if it's a cleaner way through the game, but did you just try to rip Sleep Powder into the Tyranitar if you expect that you're not going to be able to protect here? Or Rage Powder it away? Sinistcha is going to protect itself in front of this, but yeah, you're right. Your power just comes out and it's a knockout onto the Tyranitar, leaving the Sinistcha by itself to have to battle a 1v4.
I don't know if Sinistcha can do that, Rosemary. It's really powerful at helping its teammates out, but when it comes down to winning games on its own, not what you want to see. Arsal takes a commanding game one over Wolfe Glick, refusing to Mega Evolve that Charizard until the timing was perfect, just put Wolfe in a really tough spot. The use of that Dragon Claw on Garchomp was huge to ensure that you're consistently pumping out damage and not letting these defensive switch catch you off guard.
Wow, and Sinistcha almost gets taken down by that final Sludge Bomb, but is nice enough to let its partner Charizard finish it up. Game one in the Masters Finals goes to Arsal Puri.
That was so well played by Arsal that entire time. Wolfe was able to get Trick Room up with that Sinistcha, but it really never felt like Arsal was on the back foot. Even with that flinch on the Garchomp from the Rock Slide, you maybe lost a little bit of ground there, but again, you got that damage off with Dragon Claw when you needed to. And even though you had to take a few attacks, Garchomp barely hanging on from that knockoff was what it allowed it to set up the Pokemon on Arsal to take those KOs for the late game.
And that was after we saw an early wake up from the Steelix after getting put to sleep in the beginning of game number one. Heavy Slam onto the Venusaur did soften it up quite a bit, but the Sand Chip didn't take it out at the end of that turn.
No, luckily for Arsal, it was able to stick around and be the determining factor in that end game. The Heat Waves coming through from the Charizard without the Mega Evolution, still enough to take the KO in that Talonflame after some Brave Bird recoil and that crucial Dragon Claw from Garchomp. That Choice Scarf Garchomp is such a great tool for Arsal here. Even in Trick Room, Wolfe's Pokemon just don't have a great way to eliminate it quickly.
I wonder if then you think about leaving the Steelix at home. If you leave it at home and then you rely on the Mega Evolution of the Tyranitar, you do get to play a little bit more within the timing of the Mega Charizard on the other side, but it's still going to be a run back of the Tyranitar and the Steelix as we see the Garchomp and the Venusaur for Arsal.
I like it. You stick to your guns. Arsal did very well with this lead in the first game. Wolfe knows that he could potentially play this a little bit differently and turn it around in game number two. But right off the bat, once again, Venusaur threatening a big Earth Power into Steelix, threatening Sleep Powders into either of these Pokemon. trying to create some space for Arsal to not take much damage in the next coming turns.
We see Tyranitar protect itself as Steelix will do the same. It doesn't want to fall to a Sleep Powder, but you also get to scout for what this Garchomp is going to go for with its Choice Scarf, locking itself into Dragon Claw in the first turn.
I like that from Wolfe, just making sure you know what this Garchomp is trying to do. If by chance Arsal switches it up and tries to go for a ground type attack here, you know your Talonflame and your Sinistcha are much safer. Now knowing the Dragon Claw is the move locked, it's unlikely that Venusaur and Garchomp can double up for a knockout into either of these two Pokemon, so it's a lot safer for Wolfe here. No Mega on Steelix though.
No Mega on the Tyranitar either, so it's going to be a Sleep Powder to put the Steelix to sleep and a Dragon Claw to bring this Tyranitar down to about half. Steelix has to take a mandatory turn of sleep, but Tyranitar has gone for Dragon Dance to give it a bit of a speed boost for the next turn.
Wolfe taking a page out of Arsal's book and not Mega Evolving when the timing seemed right. Really smart here, because if the Steelix gets put to sleep as it Mega Evolves, you've given up that Mega Evolution, you've removed the option for Tyranitar to use it, and if Steelix didn't get put to sleep, the Heavy Slam still does a good chunk to Venusaur, maybe even to Garchomp. You're probably not taking a one-hit KO on either way, so the drop in damage that you traded potentially by not going for that Mega Evolution is very worth keeping it in your pocket.
Now you get your choice, as Incineroar is going to come in and you make that decision a little bit easier. Intimidate drop onto both the Steelix and the Tyranitar, but you've got to figure out when the Steelix is going to wake up. It won't be this turn, as we do see that Steelix get back into its Pokeball to let some room for the Sinistcha to give a Hospitality Matcha boost to this Tyranitar. As Rock Slide comes out, it is faster than the Venusaur, might be able to get a flinch here, but more importantly, ends up getting some major damage down onto this Incineroar to bring it down into Citrus Berry range, and Venusaur does flinch. Tyranitar understood the assignment.
That's a huge bit of damage into Incineroar there, thanks to that Dragon Dance. That was still a full-powered Rock Slide after the Intimidate. Now with a few more turns of Sand damage, a Rock Slide could take it out. And of course, Venusaur does not want to take one more Rock Slide. That flinch is huge for Wolfe here. You've prevented your Tyranitar from potentially going to sleep or taking something like an Earth Power, which could put it in range for that Garchomp to come in later and knock it out. Sinistcha also is here to protect that Tyranitar a little bit. Can't redirect the Venusaur, but did give it a crucial Hospitality boost.
Gotta protect yourself this turn though, because with that Incineroar switching in, you don't want to get faked out, and you also don't want to get Earth Powered on the same turn. Sinistcha going to protect itself too. Let's scout out that this Venusaur really is going after it. It has its number there with the Sludge Bomb, as the Flare Blitz would have been a double up into that slot. If you want to just think about switching out the Sinistcha on this turn.
Yeah, this Sinistcha isn't really doing a whole lot on the field right now. If it does stay on the field and potentially take a Sludge Bomb and Flare Blitz, you might lose it and lose access to Hospitality. If you swap it out and bring it back in, you get another bit of health recovery on this Tyranitar.
One turn of Sandstorm left, so will we see this Tyranitar actually give up this Dragon Dance boost? We won't. Incineroar is going to miss that Rock Slide as the Garchomp comes in to take that Venusaur's place. And that is a Pokemon you did not want to miss with that super effective Rock type attack. Leaves this Incineroar to go for the parting shot and drop this Tyranitar's attack stat.
Rock Slide gives and takes away. Missing that Incineroar means I don't know if it would have knocked it out if it did connect, but you do lose a lot of damage on that Incineroar, and you potentially lose your shot at that flinch on the Incineroar as well. Matcha Gotcha coming through into Garchomp has a chance to burn it, which could make it even more difficult for Arsal here, but it looks like it did not. A little bit of recovery there, and of course no damage on Charizard. This is where the Choice Scarf on the Garchomp is crucial. With that Choice Scarf, we'll still be able to outspeed Wolfe's Tyranitar at +1, but because it is Choice Scarf and doesn't have something like a boosting item, no soft sand to power up those ground type attacks, will an Earthquake be able to knock out Tyranitar before it can Rock Slide the Charizard?
That's a tough question to answer, because you still have a a speed boost on this Tyranitar. It's only at -1 as well, thanks to the Dragon Dance and the extra work put in by the Incineroar to drop it below neutral. But now you got to think about the timing of the Mega Evolution.
Yeah.
Which weather would win?
If both Pokemon Mega Evolve on this turn, it would actually be the Sun that remains up. Tyranitar is faster than the Charizard thanks to that Dragon Dance, but there's no Mega Evolution, there's a swap out. We're dropping that speed boost to give yourself a chance to attack with this Talonflame.
And Charizard's going to protect itself, so we will see this Garchomp actually go for Earthquake, something the Sinistcha is going to handle very well, and the Talonflame will be immune to, thanks to that flying typing. Sinistcha, look at that. I mean, it's going to get another chance to go for like a matcha gotcha here and actually try to get a burn onto this Garchomp.
A burn and maybe more importantly, some more damage to put it in guaranteed KO range for Brave Bird. That Garchomp takes a lot from that matcha gotcha, and now this Talonflame swapping in on a ground type attack with no sand active has that Gale Wings. You have the priority Brave Bird, can knock out this Garchomp even if that Incineroar comes in for an Intimidate. This is what you need to threaten this Garchomp with your speed advantage on the Talonflame, because that Tyranitar, again, would still have been slower.
Garchomp's going to switch out, knows that it's going to need to change up its move selection in the next turn, and is also a bit under threat. Intimidate to help drop the attack stat of that Talonflame. Maybe that's going to make this KO just a little bit more survivable.
Oh!
But Talonflame goes for the Sword Stance here. That's going to be a +1 Talonflame, and you're going to have to be a little scared of that one.
If Heat Wave connects, you at least get to break the Gale Wings on this Talonflame, and thankfully for Arsal, it does. But Talonflame is going to be the fastest Pokemon on the field still, and unless Arsal is able to swap that Garchomp in, Talonflame has to worry, or not, Arsal's Pokemon have to worry about taking this +1 Sharp Beak boosted Brave Bird.
Or if you set the sun, then I would be a little worried about those Flare Blitzes too.
Thankfully, this Incineroar coming in, you do get the Intimidate, so Talonflame now is only at -1, or +1 rather, and you have the option to potentially swap out that Charizard for Garchomp while you fake out the Talonflame. That still opens up an avenue for you to outspeed this no Gale Wings Talonflame, but the Charizard instead will Mega Evolve.
Still a Mega Evolution on the table for Wolfe on the next turn, but the Sun will be active at least for this one to start things off. Incineroar goes for the Fake Out, going to stop this Talonflame in its tracks, and so it's not going to be able to get a turn off for this one, but Charizard goes for Solar Beam. Is that a Tyranitar on the other side?
I think it is.
Charizard lets the Solar Beam rip. That poor Tyranitar is on the receiving end and gets one hit knocked out on the switch in.
No more sand at all for this game. Wolfe loses Tyranitar to a huge call. That is a major Solar Beam there. Makes a lot of sense that Sinistcha did not want to take a fire type attack, but now crucially, there is no sand. There is no sand force for this Steelix. Steelix is also still asleep. The Talonflame does get a little bit of recovery from that Hospitality, does not get it back up to full, so Gale Wing still remains inactive. But what a huge turn for Arsal there. You've guaranteed that you have won the Weather War.
That poor Steelix, and this Charizard has to go if this Steelix wants to stand a chance in this match. You also want to make sure that you can get yourself through these next 4 turns, because there's the other way that you can win the weather is just try to outlast it.
Yeah.
But do you have enough HP resource to do that?
This +1 Talonflame still is very threatening for the Charizard. A Brave Bird could come through and have the potential to knock it out based on how they're trained. Let's see.
Brave Bird with the Sharp Beak at +1 does actually get so close! 1 HP and a dream for this Charizard as the Heat Wave connects onto both. A KO on the Sinistcha, barely missing out on the KO for this Talonflame, but this Incineroar could follow up that Heat Wave with a Flare Blitz or a Throat Chop and knock it out. Flare Blitz is going to be the move of choice as Talonflame goes down, and Sleepy Steelix has to come in and try to win out this 1v4.
Charizard, the well-trained, taking that Brave Bird in style. 1 HP is the most exciting way you can survive there, and crucially connecting that Heat Wave on both targets, putting Talonflame into range for that Flare Blitz.
Wolfe was on the precipice of winning an 11th regional championship, but Arsal Puri had a different agenda. One Pokemon away from being able to capture the regional championship title that he has been dreaming of and chasing for many, many years. A Mega Steelix asleep. This feels like it's gotta be a job that is almost locked up. Charizard goes for the Weather Ball, brings it down to 1 HP thanks to the starting ability activating on the Steelix, but this Incineroar is going to finish it off.